Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking to Trinity. I'm your co-host, WF, Mr. Trinity. Call me what you like, I respond to it all. And with me is the man who brought us that post-Fulham review. If you haven't listened to it yet or watched it even, it's on YouTube. Mr. Dave Martinez Dance Dave. Dave from
Yeah,
Ireland. How you
I'm
doing,
a,
Dave?
yeah, I'm a little more upbeat than when I recorded that on Monday night. So a little bit more perspective at this stage. But it's interesting, something I do because over here in Ireland, in Dublin anyway, I am in the minority. So sometimes when you talk to fans of other teams, they give a little perspective, and I'm like, "Would you get over it?" And so it always is interesting when I get that Monday after a bad result. Am I overreacting? So maybe I was into the doomsday scenario too much because we're in a semi-final. We are in a semi-final, Will, for the third season in a row.
And the third different competition as well in those 3 years. I mean, the Europa League, probably the best out of those three cups that we got to the semi-finals of. You could argue the FA Cup, but that is all English teams. It's not the second best of the second best of Europe, second best. But funny enough, we do have another English team. We fortunately don't have far to travel, so it shouldn't affect Sunday's game against Tottenham at home. We'll come on to that another time. But Nottingham Forest, Dave, they're in a bit of form at the moment. They beat Sunderland 5-0. Obviously, we helped with that because Sunderland were deflated from the 4-3 loss to us. They beat Tottenham 3-0. Most teams beat Tottenham. Let's just hope that we do now, because otherwise I'm going to look a little bit silly. Is this straightforward though? Is it as straightforward as Nottingham Forest are doing really well at the moment? It's going to be a hard game, or do we have to factor in the fact that they're only on 39 Premier League points? They're 5 points ahead of Tottenham, and whilst 36 points has been safe in the Premier League over the last few years, they're anything but. Are they going to have one eye on the rest of the Premier League season, or do you think it's going to be a case of we're here, we've got to go for it, this is our priority?
I think you're touching on something that is really going to be important over the two legs, because this weekend's games will have a big factor on the relegation run-in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not suggesting that Spurs are magically fixed now because they got a 1-0 win over Wolves, and I think Solanke's probably going to be out injured now for the rest of the season, certainly for the game at the weekend.
Yeah.
That being said, if Tottenham beat us, which would be just so typical Villa, Notts Forest could need to have one eye to the following weekend when we play them in the second leg, if that makes sense. So they and even between the two, I'll mention it now, they have a game on a Monday afternoon and we have a game on a Sunday, and so we have nearly 24 more hours to recover for that second leg.
Mm-hmm.
Now obviously, if Forest go and win like 4-5-0, then, which they won't, but there's a lot of different variables going on. But if you just look at their fixtures, they have us. Who do they have after us? I'm quickly trying to pull it up now. Why, when you go into matches, does it start back at January? Jeepers. Come on, Google. Get your reply. I finally scrolled down. Yeah, it's Chelsea. And 3 o'clock away to Chelsea. And then it's us again on the Thursday. And then it's Newcastle. And Newcastle, are they safe? Probably. But you've just said it, Will, that ordinarily 36 points are safe. Newcastle are on 42. There's still 4 games to go. Spurs, 8 points behind Newcastle. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that Spurs could win 3 games. I'm just saying. So you just wonder if Newcastle lose to Brighton, and Forest pick up points, and West Ham pick up points, and Tottenham pick up points, all of a sudden, Newcastle could have something to play for in that following week just to get themselves safe. And so this is why I said there's lots of variables. So I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm going off on a tangent, but there's so many variables still for Nottingham Forest.
Yep.
And it is quite possible that they will not be mathematically safe when they play us in the second leg. And the question then is, do they try and rest players to secure their Premier League status to get a result against Newcastle the following Sunday? And that has to play on your mind, because if you aren't in the Premier League, you're so far off the pace. And my goodness, their owner, I don't think he even could contemplate going down because he's all about Champions League qualification. But if you are not in the Premier League, I don't need to go on about how much income you're going to lose out on. So you have to prioritise that. So it will be interesting if Forest don't get the result against Chelsea, or they get a draw. West Ham, if they go and beat Brentford. If Spurs go and get a result against us, which could happen if we're more concerned with the Europa League. Notts Forest have some thinking to do about their second leg, particularly if they're either a goal down or level going to Villa Park. So you kind of alluded to it, so I've just expanded on your point. There's an awful lot for Forest to think about. And do they play their strongest possible 11 over the two legs? Some might say it's their only chance of a cup win, and they may not be here for years, and there's a potential of Champions League, and if they could get through this, they have the potential to be in the Champions League. But wouldn't it be an incredible story if they're playing in the Champions League and the Championship?
Well, yeah, it would be. I mean, it would be incredible for anybody, but especially for them. I mean, do you see a situation whereby the City Ground are euphoric after Thursday night? They get a win, maybe a 1-goal margin above us, and then the Villa go into Sunday's game, and Unai Emery says, "Do you know what? I'm going to put on a masterclass here. We're going to have Marco Bizot in goal, Andreas Garcia, Lindelof, Mings, Martin Ordin. We're going to throw Bogard and Dougie Luiz, Barkley, Allison, Bailey and Tammy Abraham into that starting lineup. And if Tottenham beat us, they beat us. It doesn't really matter to put the pressure on Nottingham Forest on that Monday, because then if Tottenham win, as you say, Forest will need to win for their Premier League survival hopes. And we've only 48 hours really then, 72 if you count up until kickoff, between the games, and our players having a full rest in regards to Martinez, Cash, Conceição, whichever left back doesn't play, Onana, he needs one, Tielemans, Buendia, Sancho, Rodgers, McGinn and Watkins. Suddenly Nottingham Forest are potentially then thinking, okay, we're going to have to play a weakened team here and focus on the Premier League. That could play into our hands. And I don't think for 1 minute that Unai Emery would deliberately go out to lose against Tottenham Hotspur. We need the points. We need 5 points or so to get Champions League football. But do you think that it's something that he could be tempted by to get into a European final?
He won't go out to deliberately lose, but he will send the side out to conserve energy against Spurs, to play on the margins, to play a possession-heavy game without...
put.
There you go. So I can absolutely see a situation. I'm sorry to the rest of the Premier League and world watching. I can absolutely see a situation where we give I think you used the words on the Monday night, Tuesday upload episode, lethargic. I think that is the word that, especially if we have a big performance, hopefully tomorrow at the City Ground, where people are a bit tired, it'll be a more controlled, we'll say, less assertive, aggressive display against Spurs, which could very well play into their hands. And it's not necessarily that Forest will rest players, but if it's still on the horizon that they're still in a relegation scrap, and let's say hypothetically we go into extra time at Villa Park, how can you keep the lads on? Chris Wood, he's a huge threat, but I don't think he's gonna probably last 120 minutes. He's not that long back from injury, so I think other events in the Premier League could play a big role, and I would have loved if Sunderland could have taken something off Forest. That being said, you also put your finger on something. Sunderland are probably pretty deflated over their last minute concession of a goal against Tammy Abraham when they all but got back and got a point out of it, and then they messed up.
Yep.
I mean, that lingers on a bit, and Pereira's a good manager. He saw that, look, these guys, actually, they're leaking goals. When Villa put the pressure on them in that last minute, they got their goal. So let's go on, put the pressure on them, put the press on them. And they did. I don't think Forest can do that against us. I think they'll be too worried about McGinn and Morgan Rogers and the quality we have. Sunderland don't have that quality. So I don't think that Forest are going to come out and play that same way. I do think that if it's level coming to the end of the 90th at the City Ground, I do think they'll start piling on the pressure because they say, we're at home, we need to try and get our advantage now. I do think there will be a period where we have to suffer a bit. I think Emery has used that word before, where we have to soak up a lot of pressure, and I just hope we can do that. But I don't think Forest are going to try and do the performance they did against Sunderland because we've more of a threat against them. I think it's all pointing to it's going to be very close. You said it. Is there going to be any more than one goal in this tomorrow? And I don't think. I think whatever way it goes, I don't think the tie will be over after tomorrow night.
I mean, I agree, but one way that I feel that the tie could be over, and again, we're speaking in hypotheticals here. I realise that I'm not really saying much. I'm giving those hypotheticals to you. If we win by 2 goals tomorrow night, if we go there and we manage to get a 2-0 win or a 3-1 win or whatever, 10-8 win, doesn't matter. We win by 2 goals. Do you think that Nottingham Forest might turn around or at least 2 goals, so say 3-0, and I don't expect that to happen. Do you think Nottingham Forest might turn around and go, do you know what? It was a lovely run while it lasted. We're out of the cup. Let's go and concentrate on the league now. And second leg, we won't bother as much with our main players. If we can get something great, but we'll rotate quite a bit there.
Possibly,
especially with the game on Monday.
Well, the game on Monday could be interesting in another factor, is because they will know exactly what they need to get. Yep. Will West Ham have beaten Brentford? Will Spurs have gotten anything out of Villa? Will Leeds on Friday night get the win they need to kind of see them over the line against Burnley? So they will know the results. So they will be... Yeah. So hypothetically, let's say Villa beats Spurs, or even a draw against Spurs, and West Ham don't manage to beat Brentford, I think I said. They might think, hang on, if we can just get a point here, we'll be fine, and we can go into that tie at Villa. So it very much depends on the other games. I think that if Spurs beat us, and if West Ham beats Brentford, Forest are 2 points clear going into their game against Chelsea. I think they'll try and get something out of that Chelsea game.
Yep.
Because they have to. And that will play into our hands.
Well, with the injuries that they've got as well at the moment, it sort of feels like we need to try and capitalise on the game at the City Ground to get a good footing in this semi-final. They've got Murillo, who's likely to be out. Callum Hudson-Odoi is out for the rest of the season as well. And whilst he hasn't ripped up trees, no pun intended, as he did last season, he's a good player who can cause Matty Cash problems. Murillo is a good defender against us. I mean, I know he gave us a helping hand only a few weeks ago at the City Ground, but it's the sort of thing where you think, okay, well, it won't be a more physical centre-back, so that will help Ollie Watkins as well. When we played Forest only a few weeks ago, I think that Emery will probably be watching that back. He'll be looking at When were we at our best? When did we cause the most damage to them? How many problems did they cause for us? And let's be honest, Forest didn't cause us too much worry. They took a good goal. We caused them. We probably could have had about 3 or 4 goals in reality, and we were at our best with that quick, fluid passing movement, which got us the Murillo own goal. It got us the Watkins chance moments later. It got us the Rodgers chance that went over the bar as well. And if we can click, driven on by John McGinn and Yuri Tielemans, and hopefully, and I think we definitely need him there, a returning Amadou Onana, and I'd certainly prioritise him on Thursday.
Wouldn't be putting him out in Spurs, whatever. Wouldn't.
No, I agree. And, for me, it's a bit of a shift in focus. I've said all along Premier League, Premier League, Premier League, because you get Champions League. I think that Unai Emery is the type of manager who will say, I'm playing my best team for both. I'm going to put out as much as the best players as I can and do what he did against Sunderland, maybe, though he'll have learnt from that. And instead of taking off McGinn and Watkins after 60 minutes and making those infamous 60-minute substitutions, he might go, well, we'll leave it to 70, 75 because we've got an extra day's rest in between. And if we can get ahead against Forest with, a Luca Dean at left back starting, I would imagine, he might be inclined to say, well, with 15, 20 minutes left, we'll get Martin on. Martin can always come in. The other players further up the pitch, the only ones that you're probably going to put in at the weekend is Ross Barkley, potentially. And it will be between Sancho and Buendia in regards to those 3 behind the strikers. So we might see those 2 rotate. Apart from that, I think it'll pretty much be the same team. And, I mean, he needs to add another Villa to that Europa League winning weirdness that he's done. That's not the correct terminology, but do you think we're seeing strong teams for both games?
Yeah, I mean, you just touched on a player there, Ross Barkley. I am loath to criticise Unai Emery, but it does seem like a real error to leave him off the list. I mean, for the Europa League, and Douglas Luiz is on the list, Harvey Elliott is on the list, Ross Barkley isn't, and now with Bogard out, potentially Onana out for one of the 2 ties. My personal feeling is maybe we won't see him tomorrow, but we'll see him back for the second one. Unai Emery's press conference, if you haven't heard it, he alluded to the fact, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't think his English was perfect, but he alluded to the fact that Onana is in a little bit of pain but might be able to play. We'll see. I would think that there's a chance he won't play in the first leg, but we'll be back for the second. It's a real pity that we don't have Ross Barkley in that team. It really is. And so that is a mistake. In terms of strong squads, yeah, I mean, I think he will, because he believes in consistency, but the problem at Fulham wasn't the team was weak. It was a very strong team. It was that I won't use lethargy. That's the last time I used the word. It was that they weren't up for it. They weren't awake. Even the lads, when they got Rodgers and Watkins, when they got the chances, I wonder if that was an evening under the lights game where they hit the target with those. It just didn't happen, and it could be those players in against Spurs just not lifting themselves for the occasion because there's another big European game coming up the following Thursday. One other thing I'll do, you talked about some of the defenders there. As far as I'm aware, Gerard Cunha is out as well. So, who is it? Morato's going to have to come back in, who was good in his first season, hasn't really been too good this year. So, there are problems in that defence. Now, they have people who can hurt us going forward. Elliot Anderson, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood, they've done it before. But there are definitely areas we can exploit in the defence. Now, why Emery was so frustrated on Saturday, and he pointed to the game at the City Ground, is that we had chances and we didn't take them. So we have to take our chances. We will have chances. They will have chances. It's a question of attack versus attack. Now, I do think our defence is stronger. My also worry, though, is if we're talking about squad, so I'll bring this up, and you may not like this, but if Onana is missing, I think we're going to have... You know what I'm going to say? We're going to have to go with Tyrone Mings to mark out Chris Wood and bring that physicality in and drop Pau Torres. If Onana is out, has Will just terminated the call?
It feels like it, I can tell you. I actually thought you were going to go with the Bogard thing and say if Onana's out, I wouldn't play Bogard. I get Chris Wood. I mean, they seem to potentially be going for a top because Igor Jesus has started scoring goals as well.
And Jesus just off Wood, it looks like.
Yeah. So that in itself is do you go with Mings or do you go with Pau? For me, every day of the week, you know it's going to be Pau Torres because he's got the strength, he's got the passing, he's able to play out from the back. He plays the European game really well, though it is two English teams that are playing against each other. I would be more inclined to make the change of if Onana is out, we don't put Bogard in there, and instead we either go with Super John McGinn in central midfield alongside Yuri Tielemans, because we saw against Fulham at home this season how well McGinn played there deputising for Kamara. You can bring Sancho in with Rodgers and Buendia behind Watkins. Or is it that we get the Iceman in to centre midfield to sit there and hold? Because Victor Lindelof, getting on that ball, bringing it forward, we saw him against West Ham from centre-back, creating. Is he the one to come in there? I mean, I personally feel, and feel free to drop your comments below in the video to tell us whether you're Team Dave or Team Will on this. I think Amadou Onana starts against Nottingham Forest tomorrow. I just got a feeling that this whole, we're seeing it day by day, his knees strapped up has been strapped up for games. You know, you rest him enough, you see how he is in the morning. I can't see Amadou Onana going, I'm not playing. I think it'll be the same as if Emi Martinez could walk in with a broken arm and he would be starting that game. He wouldn't be going, oh no, Marco is like 20 minutes before. I think Onana starts.
Don't go by straps. I mean, if is it Consa always has strapping on his fingers or something?
Yeah, but you know that new medical type strapping that looks like Meccano that's on them.
Anyway, I won't go off on tangents there. Stick to the focus. I mean, we know what Onana's like. I mean, we have a problem, and this is something we need to talk about. There's so many topics we're going to talk about during the summer, and one of the topics is our central midfield. We have two amazing players who are always injured, both of them. Kamara is only in 2 of the seasons he's been here. He's played 20 games. The other 2, how many full years has been here? It's 5 seasons now. So yeah. Is it because Gerrard signed him? Yeah. Okay, 4 full seasons. So sorry, it's 4. Excuse me, 4 seasons. He's been less than 20 games in 2 seasons. And then I think it's 20 games this year. And then it's 26. So yeah, basically he's always out injured. And Onana, my goodness, obviously I don't know if it's Unai Emery's way of playing, but the guy just can't stay fit. Always getting injured. So we've got to do something. I mean, there's no point in having these 2 world-class players if they can't play. So the second leg at Villa Park is potentially a huge advantage, and I pointed out at the outset of the show that we have a day longer to recover than Nottingham Forest. What time is our game against Spurs? Is it actually later?
7 o'clock.
Okay, 7 o'clock. So we have, and then someone do the math. Then Nottingham
8 o'clock.
Are they 3 o'clock then? So we have 20 hours more than Nottingham Forest to recover for the game on Thursday, and that's a recovery day because Forest will have to recover after their game. So so they, in terms of training, they have they've 1 day to train. We've 2. So we have an advantage in that regard. We're in front of the fans. Now, Forest's form away from home has been very, very good. Let's actually not forget this. Their form is away
Yeah,
has been better than at home, even though against Villa that statistic hasn't been bearing out, but they are very good away from home. That being said, I think the difference in the European games is that there is a smaller number of away fans in both games.
hmm
So there's less than 2,000 Villa fans at the game, and then less than 3,000. I think is it 5% or something like that. It's been capped at. So yeah, you've just got about 2,000 instead of 4,000 at Villa Park. So it does make a difference in terms of atmosphere in that second leg, and I do think that we'll be favourites, even if we're a goal behind. So I honestly think when it comes to Onana, I wouldn't risk it. I know there's a long around way of saying just save him for the second leg, but we this is an area that's a problem, and it's something we have to address.
yeah, yeah. I get it, but I think as well these opportunities come along only fleetingly in certain careers, and Amadou Onana isn't exactly getting into lots of semi-finals or finals for club or country. That's why I think that we'll see Amadou Onana doing everything he can to be in that team tomorrow, which would be a massive lift. But we'll find out, an hour before the game, what that team's going to be. It'll be interesting to see. We'll be able to look in the summer as well at questions like, is Boubacar Kamara, is it better to have Kamara for 50% of the season or for none of the season at all? I mean, I know what my answer would be to that, but that's a taster for the future.
We'll talk more in the summer. Let us know. Comment below, or I'm sure you can put something out and talk Trinity on X. The centre midfield conundrum, and it is a bit of a conundrum. But short term, you think Onana both ties?
I think Onana plays in both ties, and I think we actually see somebody else coming for the Spurs game, especially with Spurs having Xavi Simons out as well now for the season after his ACL. But tomorrow, it's going to be a tricky game. How do you see? Where do you see the key battles being? Who do you see the key struggle being that's gonna turn the tide one way or another?
I think Chris Wood is going to provide problems for us. I think we will try to stop the balls coming in. I mean, this depends in DM, but I think we're going to try and break down a lot of the play there to stop the ball coming through to him. Andy Jesus again. It's if they form a good partnership with each other, I mean, it could be very difficult for us. But they have, as I pointed out earlier, they have issues in their defence as well. Their defence can leak goals. My concern is that in 2 recent games away from home, we haven't taken our chances. Mm-hmm. So the key battles are whoever we go. I think it should be Mings. You think it should be Pau Torres with Onana there. Can we keep Wood and Jesus quiet? Look, they've still got Anderson, still got Gibbs White. They're great players, but I think the battle for us will be in specifically in defence, and if we can hold firm, if you get a clean sheet, that would be absolutely amazing. I'd take your arm off you for a 0-0. But I do think we will have chances ourselves, and I do think we will have clear-cut scoring opportunities. And that's can Watkins and can Rodgers be a little bit more clinical than they have been in recent games? So they're the big questions for me.
Yeah, I can understand that and see that, and we obviously want to see more end product from Morgan Rodgers. He needs another purple patch, especially with the World Cup coming up. He needs to channel his inner Ollie Watkins. And speaking of which, for me, there's 2 battles. There's Ollie Watkins against whoever partners Milenkovic. I think Watkins focuses on them because that player doesn't play as much, whether it's Morata or whoever else.
Yeah, and Morata hasn't been having a great season, so that's a very good battle for Watkins to pick.
Yeah, and if Rodgers can come inside and lure Milenkovic out to be able to slip that ball through to Watkins, I don't think Watkins will need as many chances in this game to score a goal. The other one for me one of their key players who has gone very much under the radar, but now big teams are looking at, and he scored against us, is Nico Williams, a good left back who inverts onto his right foot, can get a shot off, can get a crossing. However, I think if we can utilise Matty Cash more, then Cash versus Williams could be a battle of whichever fullback can get forward to support the attack more and drag players out of position could be where the space ends up just for those key moments where goals are scored.
Yeah, I do worry about Matty Cash a little bit. I think they're going to try and give him the run around a bit with Anderson and Gibbs White. They might see him as an area to exploit. Now, Cash has done it before. Former Forest player, didn't we sign him from Forest?
Yeah, he's a winger at Forest.
Yeah. So they might try. I think that'll be the side that they go down. So looking for a big performance from Matty Cash. But yeah, I'd have to. I think your call, especially with can Rodgers expose Morata a bit? Presumably it's Morata there and Watkins, leaving Watkins there for one-on-one shots. I think that could well happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing for definite is we have to start quicker than we have done in previous matches. I don't think you can go for the usual Unai Emery away European type of performance where you sit back and you invite teams on and then counter them because it's another Premier League team that we're playing. But we'll see from the lineup, won't we, what it is that he's looking at, and we'll be able to on Friday talk all about the game, review the game, tell you what we thought were the best bits, what the worst bits were, and what team we would now be putting out against Spurs with an eye on that second leg at Villa Park.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Spurs conversation is pretty much dependent on what happens tomorrow night.
Most definitely. And the big question for tomorrow night, and it's a big question whether you're stood in a Holt End listening, sat in a Trinity Road, having a pint from the Witten Arms, or just sat on your sofa listening to our podcast, is Unai Emery going to get tricked by those tricky trees, or does he have a chainsaw up his sleeve in which he can carve a path to the Europa League final with? Let's see what happens after the game tomorrow night, and then a week's time after that, obviously. But until next time, cheers, Tar. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.